stormwater fund. If y'all will bear with me, I'd like to start with the general fund first. What this budget has in it, so I can kind of put it out for the public to know exactly where we're going. Number one, this budget will include closing the library. This is something that we have discussed for the last several years and have cut it down and cut it again, but it does include closing the library. It does include a 30% reduction in operational costs at the community center. As far as what is actually we did this year, department heads, along with me, we did what was called a zero-based budget as much as we could. On some things, we couldn't produce the exact prices going forward, so we did a 3-year average. And that is what we have plugged into the budget. The budget is effectively a 5.2% increase over the expenditures from last year. And the reason I say that is because I take out the deal with government capital, as we said before, the impact that actually goes into the budget for that, I lay it on a separate shelf to show you what has actually happened going forward this year would be a 5.2% increase. The revenues that I projected was based off of going to the voter approval rate, which you're going to have a public hearing coming up shortly on that. As I had recommended going to 1/100,000th less than the rate that y'all have proposed, which y'all have proposed a rate of .697375 per $100 of value. What I'm proposing is .697374. Now, if any of you have got experience with the Tarrant County database this year, it's very, very informative, and you're able to make comparisons with other cities, which I'll get into that later on. But that's where I had, in order to balance this budget, that was the tax rate that I had to propose to make it balance. For this year's projections, we did include the police step plan that increases officer salaries to $46,000 annually, which is equivalent to the base pay of our firefighters. The police chief did remove one position. He had wanted a clerk's position, but he did remove that position. The budget does add a 4th firefighter to each shift, which is 3 more, but let me explain how that's going to work. It's going to be a lateral move of Mr. Sanders will go into the fire department. The second fireman comes from the fact of we're going to do away with the part-time salaries, which I think Chief Shelley can tell you didn't work real good this year. So we're taking that totally off the table. And together with that and the $36,000 in capital cuts that the fire department made would allow us to get a second one. What it does not include is the third one, which overall we increased the fire department budget with the added personnel to about $146,000. What we did is the $5,200 for the fire marshal. We've taken off the plate, and it's going to be done in-house in the fire department from amongst the right now we do have a volunteer that is still serving as our fire marshal anyway, so we're covered. On the building inspection side, it's going to result in going to 24 hours, which is 3 days a week, that balances around the shifts of Mr. Sanders going to the fire department. We have 2 code officers to back up the other 2 days. We also have 2 state plumbing licensed inspectors on staff that can also fill in. That's for that. Why do we need a 4-man shift? Well, it's in order that we maintain no fewer than 3 per shift. That goes along with our interlocal agreements with all of Fort Worth, Sampson Park, White Settlement, and Lake Worth. It will always ensure us to have 3 on call. They're getting into the 2nd year, which means they'll be getting vacations, leaves, and if we're ever left with less than 3, then we're in violation of that interlocal agreement. So to avoid that and always keep a 3-man fire department, that is why we need to move it to 4. We already had it planned in next year's. The CARES Act did assist us because a lot of the fire department salaries throughout this budget year were already paid for by the CARES Act. The next thing that I included in this year's budget is an emergency management coordinator salary. Going forward to the future, if James was to retire, and he's been doing this volunteer and he's been great at it, but if he was to step aside from that, then in order even to get a joint agreement with an emergency management coordinator to do several cities, which in my research seems to be what some of them do, you're probably looking at no less than $2,000 a month. So I plugged $2,000 a month, which is $24,000 annually, into that budget. And then next, we did consider a salary adjustment of our CDL operators in the public works. In order to compensate that, we froze 1 position in public works in order to be able to get the salaries up that we could be competitive in getting CDL operators, because we were having a lot of problems getting them in here. And then finally, in the administration department, I did adjust the pay for our city secretary that it never did after the charter passed because we didn't have it budgeted. So I've included that. By doing all of that and with the tax revenue and all the projected revenues that I did in the general fund, and I spent hours on this general fund, by the way, I was able to balance the fund with a 2% increase to those that are not a part of an adjustment, such as in the fire department, police department, or even in public works, that we end up with a balanced budget. And how I can just go over real quick the line items and go over each one if you prefer me to, and be happy to do that. I could even compare it to 2019 for you if you'd like, just direct me how you want me to go forward.
I think
I just had one question on I know you said you cut the library that I saw in the and then 38% of the community center. I saw the line items, but I didn't know what some of the special salaries was. Can you just comment?
The special salary, yes, sir. The special salaries are the co-directors. I've already talked to them and told them that they would be cut back to 16 hours a week. They will have to alternate, which want to work 24 one week, want to work 16 that week, and then the next week could be 16 and, backwards, 16 and 16. There'll only be 16 hours, in other words, that they'll be paid per week.
Two salaries, okay.
Yeah. Second thing.
Will the hours change then as well?
No, the hours will not change.
Okay.
And they're only open for 6 hours a day, so they're going to work to fit it within the 16-hour schedule. The other thing that we did, we had to cut back on some of the events. We really don't know where we're going with this COVID stuff anyway as far as events. I know eventually we hope that the community center will get back going, but, we just never know from one day to the next. So I planned on everything as minimum operations down there until I know better, or know more, I should say better, until I know more.
if you're closing the library, what happens to the dollar donation?
We're going to probably have to put it into all the others, but that's going to take an ordinance, or before y'all did it by minutes, which I don't recommend. We need to actually do an ordinance, and y'all decide how you want to do the dollar fund going forward. Are you going to split it amongst all 3, or are you just going to create one and, somebody will make application to use those funds, and the council has to approve it.